Isolated incident or chronic problem. A look at a racist moment in baseball. The incident that took place occurred in October of 2017. The scenario was Yuli Gurriel was batting for the Astros in the World Series. He was facing a pitcher whose name was Yu Darvish, a player of Japanese descent. Gurriel himself was from Latin descent, and his team was in a pivotal game in the World Series. He stepped up to the plate, and as the ball hit the bat, he hit a home run. It was deafening as the crowd rose to its feet and cheered. The thing is this should be a normal moment where a guy hits a home run, people are disappointed for the opposing team, but the guy who hits the home run has a final moment of supreme awesomeness in his career. However, as in most cases, sports cameras are watching everything and anything you do. And as the announcers mused about the feat and talked about that last swing, the cameras happened to pan to Gurriel in the dugout, and he was celebrating. The problem was they caught him uttering the word "chinito," whilst using his fingers to pull his eyes into a slanted gesture. Having been caught on camera doing this racist act towards Darvish, whether intended or not, they acted to suspend him for 5 games the next season. Now obviously this is not okay. However, from Gurriel's perspective, he was seen doing this, which was a slur commonly used in his home country. Doesn't make it okay, but it was offensive. With the history of racism in baseball, and the worldwide view of racism today, the ramifications of this moment loom large. Gurriel didn't necessarily mean to offend anybody. He was merely being jestful with his teammates, not thinking that the camera would catch him at this time. From Darvish's perspective, you have to first look at where he comes from. Japanese baseball broke the color barrier almost a decade before MLB, so there was never that idea of segregation, of racism, the like, at all within the Japanese league. The atmosphere of the game even goes as far as to frown upon the heckling and jeering that's really common in American sports. Stadiums are broken up and heavily divided into seating so that only teams' fans are in certain areas, very reminiscent of soccer games where the opposing team always has at least a corner of the stadium where its fans may stand together in solidarity, safely. So heckling is frowned upon even from fans in Japanese leagues. So the problem is you now have to transfer that to Major League Baseball. Not to mention, it's a racist slur towards Darvish and his entire people. Whether intended or not, it was rude, and Darvish should take offense, as well as the people should possibly take offense. From Major League Baseball's perspective, they also too found this to be a problem, and had to respond in some way, as racism has been a constant threat to baseball throughout the years. It's always downplayed because, for all intents and purposes, baseball has been America's game, so trying to figure that out and figure out what the correct response would be was very troubling. It was during the World Series. Can you suspend a man during that time? Can you not suspend a player during that time? Will fans be in uproar? Will they think it's too bad? MLB's thought process was to essentially slap him on the wrist at missing 5 games during the next season. Essentially a useless suspension, as if MLB wanted to make a statement against racism, it should have done something immediate in the moment, but at least it did do something. I guess before we kind of discuss this slide about possible solutions, we have to look at a few other things that happened with the scenario. During the case of the aftermath of the issue, Gurriel immediately apologized to Darvish, the fans, the game, and everyone, even going as far as having a private meeting set up with Darvish. Darvish politely declined, and even in post-game interviews, took the high road and simply said that he accepted the apology and even responded to the text from Gurriel to have the private meeting saying no need for it, a mistake was made, and we can move on from this. And even told the media that he just hopes that this kind of incident can be, not done in the future. Everybody should learn from. But if MLB really wants to take a stand at this, I think that there should both be short-term and long-term, solutions to the problem. Granted, I do not think that this will be an end-all be-all to the situation, but at least could put a time frame and a kind of, frame in general for what may happen in the future. I think a first incident should be met with a 5-game suspension. In a week's time, a player can miss up to not only 5 games, but can also miss up to 15 to 20 at bats. This is a significant chunk of time and will be felt by the team as well as the player itself. Now, this is different from a pitcher, as a pitcher plays usually once every couple games. So I think if it's a starting pitcher, they should miss 2 to 3 starts as a maximum penalty for that first offense. But if a reliever is there, I think a 5-game suspension stands, as relievers are needed more often, and them being out for 5 games can put teams at a disadvantage when they want matchups. Second-time offenders, the 5-game suspension should be made to 10, double it. A fine should also be applied for that offense. If it's a starting pitcher, it should be up to 4 to 5 missed games. Along with the set of penalties, the individual must attend a racial sensitivity class assigned by MLB. It's a common practice in many other leagues, especially the NFL, as we've seen many players recently having to do so. This can be completed by either attending the class in the hometown of the team, as it'll be easier for the player to attend, or if it can't, Major League Baseball can assign someone to go and teach the class with the team. For third-time offenders, I think doubling the penalty would be acceptable from Tier 2. And at Tier 4, I think there should be considering of lengthier suspensions. I'm not sure what would be appropriate at this time, as I don't think we've ever gotten this far, let alone a third-time offender. But we shall see what the future holds. Here's a reference page of all the sources. You're more than willing to email me at jglasser8@gmail.com in order to ask me any further questions, or just comment here. Thank you so much and have a great day.